as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows across Nashville's streets. I found myself meandering, drawn into the evening's embrace. The day's energy receded, leaving behind a tranquil stillness, punctuated only by the soft hum of the city winding down. It was during this twilight stroll, amidst the fading echoes of daytime hustle, that an unexpected encounter unfolded. A lone pigeon, its gray feathers almost glowing in the dim light, landed mere steps ahead on the pavement. This wasn't the Nashville I was used to, one vibrant with music and bustling crowds. Instead, the scene before me was serene, almost deserted, save for this single, unassuming bird. It looked at me, head cocked to one side, with a curious, almost knowing gaze. In the heart of a city where the presence of nature often felt overshadowed by urban sprawl, this moment felt strangely intimate, a silent communion between man and nature. I paused, my errands momentarily forgotten, captivated by the bird's fearless demeanor. It wasn't just the pigeon's presence, but the way it seemed to acknowledge me, not as a threat, but as a part of its evening routine. The encounter, brief as it was, felt like a subtle nudge, a reminder of the unexpected beauty and moments of connection that can emerge in the most ordinary settings. With a flutter of wings, the pigeon broke our silent standoff, leaving me alone once more. Yet the sense of something stirring beneath the city's calm surface lingered, a whisper of mysteries hidden in the ordinary, waiting just beyond the reach of the streetlight's glow. As I resumed my walk, the echo of my footsteps mingling with the distant sounds of Nashville's nightlife, the sense of anticipation grew, a feeling that this evening was not just another routine end to the weekend, but the beginning of something entirely unexpected. My first stop was the quaint grocery nestled between the more modern facades, its sign weathered yet welcoming. Inside, the air held a mix of spices and fresh produce, a testament to the old owner's pride in his offerings. He greeted me with a nod, his eyes crinkling. Yet there was a fleeting shadow behind him that seemed out of place, gone when I blinked. Next, the familiar chime of the coffee shop door welcomed me, the aroma of roasted beans enveloping me like a warm hug. Here, I was no stranger, greeted by name with my usual ready before I even asked. But today the warmth was tinged with an inexplicable chill that traced my spine, the lights flickering briefly as I took my seat. Lastly, the vintage dry cleaners, with its walls adorned with tales of garments from eras past, held a comforting routine. The owner, always eager to share a story, seemed distracted today, his usual cheer dimmed. As he spoke, a coat behind him swayed with no breeze to stir it, a whisper of unease that lingered as I left. The unsettling sense of being followed intensified as I made my way through the evening's errands. The same man, a nondescript figure whose presence was becoming increasingly conspicuous, seemed to shadow my every step. At the grocery, I noticed him among the aisles, his basket filled with items that suggested mundane intentions, yet his lingering glances and the deliberate timing of his movements sowed seeds of doubt in my mind. In the coffee shop, he sat at a distance, a cup of coffee untouched before him, his attention veiled yet unmistakably fixed in my direction. Even as I moved through the city, the pattern persisted, his figure materializing at every stop, blending with the crowd yet set apart by an unspoken tension. The rational part of me debated the likelihood of mere coincidence, the city's rhythm perhaps inadvertently synchronizing our paths. Yet a deeper instinctual part recoiled at the persistent intrusion of his presence, a primal warning against the disquieting vibe he emanated. The internal debate waged on, logic clashing with intuition, leaving me to navigate the increasingly blurred line between ordinary urban encounters and the creeping suspicion of a deliberate pursuit. As the twilight deepened into night, a subtle weave of supernatural occurrences began to unfold, each element seemingly orchestrated to protect me from the unseen threat that lurked a few paces behind. Streetlights, acting as beacons in my path, flared to life with a warm embrace as I approached, only to dim into nothingness once I had passed, cloaking my steps in a shroud of darkness that seemed impenetrable to prying eyes. Objects, mundane in their existence, took on the role of guardians. A shopping cart, abandoned in haste, found its way into the narrow passage between buildings just as the shadowy figure attempted to quicken his pace, effectively blocking his path and allowing me moments of respite. Even the signs, which had stood still in the calm evening air, began to sway as if stirred by an unseen force, each movement timed perfectly to hinder his pursuit without a trace of human intervention. These occurrences, at first glance mere coincidences, gradually painted a picture of an unseen protector, each act of interference more pronounced than the last, enveloping me in a shield of otherworldly care as I navigated the increasingly eerie streets of Nashville. The realization that I was being followed shifted suddenly from an uneasy suspicion to a palpable threat, igniting a primal urge within me to flee. The once familiar streets of Nashville transformed into an intricate labyrinth, each turn a desperate bid for safety. As I darted through the maze-like alleys, the city itself seemed to come alive, aiding my escape with bewildering phenomena. Mirrors and windows warped perceptions, casting elusive reflections that veiled my movements, while sudden mist rose from the cobblestones, wrapping the pursuit in a disorienting fog. These supernatural interventions provided fleeting sanctuaries, guiding me through the urban twilight, always one elusive step ahead of my relentless shadow. As I raced through the dimly lit streets, the realization of supernatural protection sparked a series of vivid recollections. There had been moments in my past, too easily dismissed, where an unseen force seemed to intervene on my behalf. I remembered a day, years ago, when a bookshelf inexplicably toppled over at the library, narrowly missing me but blocking the path of someone who had been menacingly close behind. Another time, during a hiking trip, a sudden gust of wind had deterred me from a path that later I found led to a precarious cliff edge. These events, once mere footnotes in my life's narrative, now resurfaced with striking clarity, painting a picture of a life subtly guided by an unseen hand. The realization that these were not coincidences but instances of a protective force at work was both alarming and comforting. It seemed this latent guardianship, woven into the very tapestry of my existence, had once again manifested to shield me from the immediate threat lurking in the shadows of Nashville. My footsteps echoed through the deserted alley, the stalker's presence looming ever closer, a tangible threat in the darkness. Panic surged within me as I realized the path ahead was a dead end. I turned, facing the inevitable, my back against the cold brick wall. But as he advanced, the air shifted palpably, charged with an unseen energy. Suddenly, the shadows around us stirred, coalescing into a dense, swirling mist at my feet. It rose rapidly, enveloping us in a thick fog, its cool tendrils wrapping around me like a protective cloak. I heard him stagger, his confident steps faltering as the mist obscured his vision, turning his certainty into confusion. Seizing the moment, I moved silently through the fog, guided by an inexplicable warmth that seemed to lead me away from danger. Behind me, Muffled curses faded into the distance as I emerged from the mist into the safety of a lit street, the stalker lost in the supernatural shroud that had descended just in time to save me. The alley, the stalker, the fear, all were swallowed by the fog, leaving no trace of the harrowing chase except the pounding of my heart and the profound realization that some unseen force had intervened on my behalf. Safely settled in the familiar confines of my home, the harrowing events of the evening began to unfurl in my mind like the pages of a mystery novel, each chapter more bewildering than the last. The stark contrast between the comforting embrace of my living room and the eerie shadows of Nashville's streets seemed almost otherworldly. As I replayed the night's occurrences, from the initial unsettling realization of being followed to the climactic intervention of the unseen, I found myself ensnared in a web of contemplation. The notion of guardians, ethereal and elusive, protecting me with their invisible hands, was both comforting and unnerving. These spectral sentinels, woven into the very fabric of the city's history, seemed to emerge from the shadows only to retreat back into the enigma that spawned them. Their motives, their origins, remained shrouded in the mists of the unknown, leaving a trail of unanswered questions in their wake. As I gazed out into the night, the cityscape now serene in the moonlight, I couldn't help but feel a profound connection to these mysterious protectors. Their presence, though unseen, was as real to me as the streets of Nashville itself. Yet for all the solace this thought provided, it also cast a veil of perpetual mystery over the evening's events. The true nature of these guardians, their reason for their unseen vigil, remained a puzzle, its pieces scattered in the realm of the unseen, leaving me to wonder if the night's adventure was but a single thread in a larger, unseen tapestry of the supernatural that envelops the city.